Hey everyone, welcome back to the Maker's Gonna Learn YouTube channel. My name's Alicia, and today I want to talk to you all about how to cut and apply vinyl using your Cricut machine. There are lots of different Cricut machines that are out there for you all to use, so I'm going to take you all step by step on how to cut a basic adhesive vinyl design and apply it to something simple like this pencil box or any other thing that you have been wanting to apply your vinyl to. There are lots of different types of vinyl out there as well, and I want to clear things up with you if you may be a little bit confused on the differences between permanent vinyl, adhesive vinyl, and HTV. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I get asked a lot, what's the difference between removable and permanent vinyl? And honestly, you all, there's not a huge difference. The biggest thing for me is I like to use permanent vinyl whenever I'm putting it on things like tumblers or things that if I wash them, I don't want it to come off as easy. So you can use removable vinyl more for like your crafty projects, that if you're applying it to a card or some type of disposable plastic item, something like that, you're gonna be able to use the removable vinyl versus the permanent vinyl. But I typically go for my permanent vinyl before I go for removable, just because I want it to stick. The tack is a little bit stickier with permanent vinyl, so that's what I tend to lean towards more usually. But it's just gonna depend on what you're applying it to and how long you're wanting it to stay there for. We're going to be cutting some permanent holographic vinyl today. I'm going to show you all how I cut it in Design Space, how I put it on my mat, and all of that. It's very, very easy. If this is your first time, I don't want you to feel intimidated. I want you to leave this video feeling empowered and comfortable making your first Cricut project on your own. Let's go ahead and jump into Design Space. So you can see here, I already have an image pulled into Design Space. But if you have not ever done this before, I just want to walk you through how simple this can be. So you're going to go to your uploads in Design Space, and this is where all of your images are going to live. I already uploaded an image from makersgonnalearn.com, and I just went to upload image, and you can browse and you can find your file in your recents or your downloads, and then you would just select whatever the image is and hit open. So we've already got ours over here. I'm just going to select my rainbow, and then I'm going to hit add to canvas. Now, whenever I pull this image in, you can obviously see that it's different colors. If you are new to Cricut, you may not already know this, but all of the different colors are going to cut on separate mats. So right now I've got 5 or 6 different colors, but I really just want to cut this rainbow with the text out of one singular color. So what I'm going to do while my image is selected is come up here to the top left, and you can select whatever color you want. I'm just going to go with this teal blue. And then you're going to need to make sure that everything is resized to how. And then once your image is the exact same color, this is going to signify that everything needs to be cut out of the same piece of vinyl on the same mat. Now that we've done that, we can add some text to our image if we want. We are using the font Little Lovey. It's a Maker's Gonna Learn font. If you're unfamiliar with Maker's Gonna Learn, we are a membership-based crafting community. So whenever you become a member with us, you have access to all of these files as well as tons of fonts. So there's lots of different fun design options that you're going to have whenever you become a member. And I particularly love our font choices. This is one of our newer ones. So we're going to be using this today, and you can add whatever font that you want. You're just going to click text and add in the text this way. And I want it to be the same color because I want to cut the name out of the same color of vinyl. So you can just come up here while the text is selected, and you can click your color drop down and just select that same color. Now, if I want to cut my text with my rainbow, right now it's kind of free moving. So we want to make sure and attach our text to our image. So I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to attach everything. This is going to allow us to cut this out on the mat all together. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this. I just wanted to show you all how exactly to upload the image and change the colors and all of that. So you can see now we have one unified image. And before I cut this, I want to make sure that it is the right size. So we can see up here at the top middle that the width is 7 and the height is 5. But let's go ahead and measure our pencil box and make sure that it's going to fit on there completely. So I've just got a measuring tape here, and we are going to measure this inner square. So you're going to always want to remember to measure the space that your decal is going on. So this is 7 inches by 3.5 about. So I'm going to go back into design space and make sure that my design can fit within those parameters. So right now it's 7 by almost 6. So we're way too big. You can shrink this down just like this if you want to. The width is 5, the height is 4, and that's still a little bit too tall. So I'm gonna keep shrinking this down. And you can see the height is now at 3.5, which is a lot closer to what we're wanting. And I'm just gonna shrink it a little bit more. So it's at 3.4 by 4. So this is perfect. Now what you're gonna need to do is select Make It. Once you get to this screen, you're gonna have a few different options. So I think whenever we first get into design space and we are messing around with cut settings and things like that, it can be very intimidating. And I don't want you all to feel intimidated by this because it's so easy. And the more that you practice, the better you're gonna get at it. So since we're using adhesive vinyl, we are going to keep our image as is. If we were using heat transfer vinyl or HTV, you would be mirroring your image, but we're not. We're just using regular vinyl. We are cutting it on a mat, and you're gonna be able to change your material size if you want to right here in the drop-down menu. I typically just keep mine at 12 by 12, even if my piece of vinyl isn't 12 by 12 inches. Basically, for example, if I had a 6 by 6 piece of vinyl, you can see the 6 mark up here and right here. As long as my design is within that area of the mat before I cut, it's gonna be okay. So I just kind of use the guidelines on my mat as my parameters, and I keep my material size at 12 by 12. You will develop a system for yourself that works well for you. This is just what works for us. So I'm gonna go ahead and select Continue, and it's gonna connect to our machine. We're using a Maker today. And then we're gonna get to our material settings. So it says Set Base Material. Now today we are using just a regular vinyl. I'm gonna browse all materials, and you can just type in vinyl and hit enter, and it's gonna pull up lots of different options here. So you can use just this basic vinyl cut setting. You can use holographic cut setting. The holographic and the regular cut setting are not that much different. I am cutting holographic vinyl today, but I can cut it on the regular vinyl. So once you're in here, after you've searched for vinyl, obviously there are tons of options, and I don't want this to overwhelm you. So typically, unless I'm cutting a thicker vinyl or like a glitter or something super textured, I like to just go with a basic vinyl cut setting. We're gonna select Done, and then I'm gonna keep this at default pressure. Now, if it doesn't cut all the way through the first time, we can change the pressure settings and recut it, and I'll show you all how to do that. If you want to add more pressure, you can always just drop down this menu and hit more. But it's very important that you're selecting the proper cut settings before you actually cut your vinyl. That way it cuts all the way through the first time around. So it says to load our tools and materials. We're gonna be using a fine point blade, and I'm gonna go ahead and put our vinyl on the mat. So you're only gonna need a few tools whenever you're cutting vinyl. In order for us to actually put the vinyl on the mat, you're gonna need a good burnishing tool. This is just a Maker's Gonna Learn burnishing tool. Anything that's gonna allow you to put your piece of vinyl down on your mat very solidly. So I've got a standard grip mat here, and I'm just lining up my vinyl on the top and the left. And I can kind of run my hand over this to smooth it out. But then I can take a burnishing tool, and this is gonna really adhere that vinyl down to our mat. And then a couple other tools that are going to be handy for you whenever you're cutting vinyl are a weeding tool, which is almost necessity. You're going to need a weeding tool like 98% of the time. And then I also have this X-Acto knife. So this is just a sharp knife that's going to allow me to cut my design off of my mat once I've got it cut out. And then a couple other things that I like to have on hand is rubbing alcohol. This is in just like a pump bottle, and I'm gonna actually be using that to clean our pencil box later on. So let's go ahead, since we've got our vinyl on our mat, and let's send this through the Cricut. So you're just gonna line this up and put it under the edge right here. So you're just gonna line this up under these little lips right here. You're gonna be able to see those on your machine. And I'm gonna add slight pressure to the end of my mat, and I'm gonna hit this blinking arrow. And you can see over in design space, it's gonna be telling us to press go. So back over at our Cricut, our little C is lit up and flashing, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit that, and it's gonna start the cutting process. So while that's cutting, I'm gonna go ahead and clean my surface. So this is gonna really help the application process of putting your vinyl onto your craft. So you just wanna make sure you're always working with a very clean surface. I'm just using this little alcohol pump bottle, and then we are going to clean our surface. And then we wanna let that dry completely before we apply our vinyl to our pencil box. Okay, so our design has cut, but I want to make sure that it's completely cut through before I remove this from the machine. So I'm just gonna take my weeding tool, and I'm going to make sure that it's cut all the way through, and it has. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit this blinking arrow and remove it from the Cricut. So before I actually remove this, I like to take my burnishing tool and just make sure that my design is stuck down really well to my backer. So after I do that, I'm gonna take my X-Acto knife and I'm just gonna cut around my design very carefully, making sure that I'm not actually going into my design. And then you can just remove the excess vinyl from around your piece very carefully. So once it's cut out, what I like to do is take a burnishing tool and make sure that our design is adhered down to the backer. And then we're gonna start the weeding process. So I've got a weeding tool right here, and what I like to do is just find a good starting point, and all I'm gonna do is just stab this into the vinyl, so kind of get a good edge going, and then you're gonna lift up, and you can see that the vinyl is gonna start to come up. Now, depending on how intricate your design is, you're gonna want to be super careful when you're weeding so that you're not pulling up any small pieces that you might have wanted included in your design. And if you do seem to have an issue, you can always take a little tiny scissors and kind of cut. That way you're not pulling up this entire area around your intricate design up at once, and you can kind of focus more on going a single direction. And you're just going to be super careful when you're weeding this, especially around small details as well as letters. So I like to cut the excess off as I go. It just makes me feel more in control of my weeding. And you'll see sometimes little tiny pieces will try to come up. You can just lay them back down. Use your weeding tool to help you as a second set of hands, because they are more precise than you trying to use your own hands. Okay. And then just go back and make sure you're getting all of the middles of your letters out, and then any other small details that you may have missed. They also have this tool called a pen weeding tool, and it is a very, very fine point needle on the top of here, and it helps whenever you're weeding very tiny designs like the inside of these leaves. I really love to use these for smaller areas. The weeding tool is super beneficial for most of the design, but if I have very intricate details, it's just easier to get in there with one of the pen tools. And you can find these at 143vinyl.com. They have lots of different color options and things like that. So super handy to have one of these on hand. So now that our design is weeded out, we're going to need to get our design from here onto whatever we're applying it to. So the next thing that's going to come in is your transfer tape. Now this is the Caesar transfer tape. The Caesar brand is a crowd favorite. This is what I'm going to be using today. It just works across the board for many different types of vinyl. And all you do is just remove the backing from the transfer. And then I'm just going to fold this in the middle, kind of like a taco. We're going to touch it down onto our decal, and then we're going to flatten it out. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish this down. And then we're going to remove everything from our mat. And you can always remove your decal and then apply your transfer tape if that's the way that you prefer to do it. And then I'm just going to take my burnishing tool and make sure that our vinyl is really adhered to our transfer. And then what we'll do is get our piece ready that we want to apply this to. Make sure everything's going to line up well. And then I am going to remove the backing from my decal. So I'm just going to flip it over and slowly take the backing off of this. If you have pieces that come up, you can just lay it back down and make sure they adhere to the transfer tape. Okay. And then we're just going to flip it back over. And we're just going to apply this using the taco method. So I'm just folding it up in the middle, making sure it's lined up. And then we're going to apply it to the box. Now, go ahead and get your burnishing tool. And we're just going to go over top of our design and make sure that it is adhered to our piece really well. Okay. And then we're going to slowly remove our transfer tape. Now, if you see that some of your pieces are not staying stuck to your box or whatever you're applying it to, just take your burnishing tool and go back over it again. There are many different transfer tapes out there. Make sure that you are selecting a transfer tape appropriate for whatever vinyl you're using. So strong grip transfer tapes, you're not going to use those 99% of the time. Those are for very specific types of vinyl. Just everyday vinyl, this Caesar transfer is so good, and it just works really well for most crafts. And just like that, your decal is applied to your piece perfectly, and it looks so good and it's so easy. Once your decal is applied, you are done. You're good to go. You can use your little box to put your Cricut tools in if you need to, and it just looks so cute. And now you can customize all of the things. I hope you all found today's tutorial super helpful, and I hope that you feel confident now to make your own vinyl decals. It's super easy, you all. I don't want you to feel intimidated by this because it can be so much fun, and you're gonna be able to customize all of your things now, not just for yourself, but for your friends and family as well. If you all are interested in becoming a member with Makers Gonna Learn, make sure to check out makersgonnalearn.com and see all that we have to offer. We would love for you to be a part of our community, and we will see you all in the next video. Bye.